Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. So for the first time in over 3 years, I actually find myself scared of getting COVID-19 again, and I've gotten it 4 times, and the last one was especially dreadful. Now, it wasn't dreadful in the sense that I ended up in the hospital or dying or anything like that, but it made me recognize how many things I take for granted in my everyday life that could quickly evaporate if I'm not careful. I lost my appetite during my last round of COVID-19, which I got in May. I recovered very quickly from the virus itself. I was testing negative pretty much as soon as I realized I had symptoms. But I only had one positive test, and just barely. I mean, you could almost not see the line. I should have taken a picture of it. But I had one barely positive test, and the rest were negative, and then I lost my appetite. Oh, I wish I could lose my appetite. I eat way too much. No, you don't. You wish you had more fun things to do besides to indulge in your never-ending appetite, right? But when I lost my appetite, I quickly discovered how it ruined the punctuation of the day, right? You get into this habit of, I do this and then I eat, I do this, and it created a big hole in my heart, if you will. It's hard to explain. I don't wish it on anybody. That's why it's so hard to explain. The other fun thing is that I quickly regained my appetite one day, and I think I even recorded a video that day. And that was a pretty big shock to the system as well, because I had kind of gotten adjusted to the idea that, okay, well, let's enjoy this. I get to schedule things more freely now. I don't have to worry about meal times. I have more money to invest. I was accumulating a lot of bismuth and indium at this time. I had just learned how to pour indium statues, and indium's quite a bit more expensive, so the audience is quite limited there, but I want to keep some of the indium myself anyway. I hope to eventually pour copper. It's actually quite a bit more challenging because of the higher melting point. And I had just gotten myself adjusted to that new norm when everything got thrown back at me again. That was kind of interesting to experience. But for the first time in 3 years, I find myself nervous when I hear somebody coughing or sneezing, and because I'm probably not going to die from it, but I realize that the fact that I have an appetite, the fact that I have a good sleep hygiene in terms of the scheduling, the fact that I get to network with people, the fact that I get to make my bismuth art without being out of breath from moving all that heavy equipment, I come to realize that none of this is to be taken for granted. All of this could disappear without warning. And so that's a rude awakening, to realize that all the things that you take for granted, like your connections, your hobbies, your career, and your ability to enjoy life, enjoy your food, all of that is literally, it's hanging by a thread, right? That's a really eye-opening experience. And I have a nickname for this current COVID variant, so we're calling it the Eras variant, but I prefer to call it the Eras variant, because I had a really bad experience with Taylor Swift and her Eras tour. What had happened was that I was working at a tutoring center, and my boss, he's a boomer generation, but he has kids who are probably Taylor Swift fans, or at least in that age range, maybe grandkids as well. And so he was very understanding of my colleagues taking time off to do stuff like that. I don't think any of them went to see Taylor Swift, but some of my colleagues took off the day after the Super Bowl because they wanted to drink the night of the Super Bowl. I went in there, which is fine. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Super Bowl anyway, don't get me wrong. The thing I don't like about it is it doesn't reciprocate when there's something I like that is not as fashionable in the office, and he just poo-poos it, right? And so I'm so glad I ended up being let go of that tutoring center, because I had a hard time with letting go of the students, and I didn't want to walk out of there. But on my last write-up, my boss said that I had used inappropriate gestures at the student, and that gave me a big smile on my face. And I ended up taking the job here at Phoenix College anyhow. I had a lot of difficulties because of this lack of understanding, and it created too much friction. But so for the first time, I'm actually scared of COVID. I wish more people would use this to maybe remember years ago when people started screaming "Let's go Brandon," and maybe vaccines. We should be doing that at maybe an Eras concert. Or I'm surprised "Let's Go Brandon" hasn't broken out at one of the Eras concerts. Maybe it has. I haven't seen it yet though. All right, stay safe out there, and make sure to not take what you have for granted too much. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.